Please don't read this as me criticizing her. Honestly, I have mentioned it to family, and they all laugh and think it's funny, but it's been 17 years since we met, and I'm legitimately worried, and have been for a while, that she may hurt herself. My partner passed university and works in human resources for a government agency. She reads all the time, does puzzles, crosswords, sudokus, all things to keep her brain active. When it comes to most things, she's not an idiot. However, she has utterly atrocious situational awareness. Like, if I open the glass front door on a windy day and just don't latch the door back, why did the door smash? Or a 30-pack of Coke cans belongs in the middle of a hallway where it's dark, and they can't be seen, especially when my husband comes home from time in the hospital with a dislocated knee and is on crutches. Like, if you have the capacity to do a Sudoku, which involves forward thinking, how can someone be so oblivious to the world around them? Don't get me wrong, I love her to bits, and we all do dumb stuff from time to time, but I'm worried it's more often than not, and I don't know what to do. I've tried talking to her, and she just gets offended, then walks into a door frame or something. Edit. It's been 24 hours. Honestly, I thought this might get 3 or 4 comments and maybe a couple of likes. You all got some frustration out. Jokes aside, cheers all for commenting and the direct messages. We have talked about the possibility of attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and she said she's happy to get checked. It's also very hard to tell her I have a post with many positive reactions centered around her. I might wait and see if attention deficit disorder comes back positive, then show her how many people care. Edit 2. First award. Thank you, kind stranger. Story 1. Cabinet doors. Never ever closes them, and I can't figure out why. Using massive amounts of paper towels when she dries her hands, even though there's a normal towel right behind her. I love her to death, but these habits drive me insane some days. Story 2. My mother is one of the smartest and emotionally intelligent people I know, but she can't follow a global positioning system if it meant saving her life. Turn right in 1 mile to her means she has to turn right immediately into a railing. Story 3. This will probably get lost in the comments, but here's mine. We got groceries and bought 2 gallons of milk. Got home, and she put 1 in the basement refrigerator to save space. 2 days later, I'm on the couch, and she's getting something from the refrigerator. She turns to me and says, "You seriously drank 1.5 gallons of milk in 2 days?" and continues a rant, which honestly is rare for her. I just let her keep talking and tried not to laugh. Finally, I was like, or just maybe, and stay with me here. There is another gallon downstairs where you put it. She realizes her mistake, and we both laugh. The very next day, she gets milk for whatever and is like, "Hey, we need to go to the store and get milk. We are out." Once again, I respond with, "Or we can use the gallon you put downstairs." We no longer put milk downstairs. Story 4. Putting an open box, open side down, back into the freezer full of microwave and toaster food. It has happened on 2 occasions now. The first time this happened, I was about to make a quick breakfast meal at 4:30 a.m. when I used to get up. I pulled the box out and dumped about 40 pancake sausage on a stick things on the ground. She wakes up and is mad that I am making a bunch of noise, as if I blatantly dumped them on the ground. The second time was yesterday. I pulled out the box of waffles thinking, nice, they have not even been opened, and out dumped about 18 waffles on the floor. Instantly triggered. Thankfully, both times everything had plastic wrapping and we had just cleaned the house the day before. Story 5. Common sense is not so common. I had a power strip on a shelf under a plant. Often, when watering plants, some water might drip or leak from the flower pot. One day, I noticed the power strip sizzling after watering. At least now we have a larger dish under the plant. Story 6. Leaving crumbs on the table and not putting the cap back on the toothpaste. It's not that big of a deal because I probably leave her with similar moments as well. Story 7. I knew a vitreoretinal surgeon like this. Incredibly smart, a renowned expert in his field, but he can't find the right patient or the right exam room at all. If his staff didn't direct him to the right place every time, then he would wander the hallway like a lost goldfish or barge into the wrong patient's room. Story 8. Laugh out loud. I have a friend who gets drunk and will just put their drink on the floor of a bar to dance, then gets surprised when someone comes along and kicks it. She is a bright person, but this thing is just so consistent that I do not understand. Story 9. Seeing this girl and we went grocery shopping. In the bakery section, she picked up a bag of hamburger buns and asked, "Are there already burgers in the buns?" Story 10. I was in urgent care the other day for a sharp pain in my neck, and my girlfriend was bugging me about the wordle of the day while the physician assistant was asking me questions, literally interrupting the physician assistant mid-question. I was like, "Can you stop for a minute?" It boggled my mind. Like, what was going through her head? You know why we're here, right? Story 11. This is a fairly specific one. My wife has an ongoing joke that drives me insane. It involves a section of the bridge from Kesha's "Your Love Is My Drug." Hey, I got a question. Do you want to have a slumber party in my basement? Do I make your heart beat like an 808 drum? Is my love your drug? When I least expect it, she will say the first line, "Hey, so I got a question," in such a way that makes me think she actually has a question. Then, when I respond, she launches full-throated into the remainder of the bridge into the chorus. She used to do it with relative frequency, to the point that I learned to look out for Kesha's specific syntax. I guess once that happened, it got boring because she stopped doing it. She hadn't done it in literal years until the other day when we were just pulling into the driveway from a big important errand a ways away. She caught me completely off guard, thinking about other things, and then, out of nowhere, "Do you want to have a slumber party in my basement?" Like, really, dog? Years. I got. Story 12. My wife can't put anything in the same place twice and acts like it's my fault when I can't find something. I have anchored every remote in my house to a piece of furniture and tied loops on my phone chargers so she can't hide them throughout the house. Story 13. My wife puts bags of chips back in the pantry if they have even a half dozen little chip fragments left in them because she might eat them. So naturally, we have several of these bags at any given time until they go stale and I throw them out. I adore her, and she is an amazing mother. Story 14. He is incapable of putting the towel back on the hook. I am not sure if it is the extra effort of stretching his arm a few more inches, or if he just forgets every single time. Story 15. Wow, I felt like you described my wife with some of those examples. I'll add more. Putting her cups on the ground and getting upset when the dogs come to take a drink. Placing phones and laptops on the edge of tables or counters with about 40% of them off the edge. Yes, they frequently get knocked off. Putting her bag, boxes, and other items right next to the doors where you would expect the walkway to be clear. Asking me to carry down laundry, but then loading up the stairs with items I won't be able to see because of the laundry. Getting upset that I dumped her clean clothes from the laundry basket on the bed. I put mine away immediately. She wants to live out of a basket for over a week. We have two, and one is already permanently full with her clean clothes. I need the basket to carry down the clothes that have accumulated on the floor. Getting upset that I didn't add a particular clothing item to the wash, even though that item was nowhere near the dirty clothes pile. Not removing things from her pants pockets when putting them in the dirty laundry basket. 3 pairs of wireless headphones gone in 5 months. Leaving dirty clothing, especially socks, throughout the house. Criticizing my parents for having so many baskets of clothes instead of putting them away. Getting upset that dogs lay on top of her but not being willing to move them. Sweeping the house but then leaving over half the piles of dirt and hair on the floor. I'm not sure how she forgets every single time. Constantly offering to pay for things at work that her job should be paying for. Taking things outside to dry but leaving them out until there's a rainstorm and getting mad about it. Her car's passenger side usually has about 12 empty water bottles floating around. Wearing my nice shoes because they were close to go do something in the yard real quick. I'm sure I could think of more, but those were the ones that immediately came to mind due to how often they occur. Story 16. Tops up her e-cigarette liquid while doing 90 miles per hour on the motorway. I always ask why she can't wait until we get there or top it up before we set off. Does my head in? Story 17. Ask our child if I did things well enough. Did daddy brush your teeth well enough? Did daddy wipe you well enough? Did daddy use enough lotion on you? I'm not sure if she knows what she's doing when she's doing it, but I do call her out on it, and then she just plays the victim like it's nothing I should be upset over. Story 18. Goes by best before instead of checking if an item is fresh or not. An example of this recently was if we have a late lunch, we often do not bother with dinner, and if we get peckish, we will have toast around 9 or 10 p.m. On this particular occasion, she decided she did not want toast as the bread was tomorrow's date. Literally 2 hours away from being out of date in her eyes. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the bread on the day, or the next day, or the day after, yet she would not touch it. Story 19. For the life of me, I cannot figure out how trash can be transported from all locations within the house but cannot make it the last 2 feet into the trash can and must be placed on the counter next to it. That wrapper made it all the way from the living room through the kitchen and stopped right there on the countertop just before that last foot into the trash can. Story 20. I really do think that many people lack common sense. My sister is brilliant academically, but how she has remained alive all this time is either by sheer luck or something in the universe keeping an eye on her. My mom is the same way, probably where my sister gets it from. No common sense and does things that truly make me think, how in the world did you think that was a good idea? I remember my dad often being frustrated with my mom, and he told me, sometimes I don't know what your mother or sister is thinking. Then he'd tell me, don't tell them this, but I'm glad one of you can handle yourself. And then he patted me on the head. Story 21. Thinks cleaning is vacuuming the visible part of the floor. Had no idea people wash things like throw rugs, curtains, and comforters. Told me with a straight face that no one vacuums under furniture because how could it get dirty if no one walked there? Can't remember the difference between sheets, blankets, and comforters on the bed. Slept on top of the top sheet because it's a sheet. When changing the sheets, may wash just the sheets without the pillowcases because they're not sheets. Story 22. She drops things. A lot. She'll just be walking down the hallway with her phone in her hand, and I'll hear it drop to the floor. Or we'll be making dinner together, where I'm cooking and she's cutting vegetables. I completely know that the knife will be going for her toes every time. Story 23. Doing things without much thought and wondering why they never work out. On that vein, she really dislikes my mother, yet opens her mouth saying things she knows she'll be criticized for regardless of the severity of what she says. Then she complains about the criticism, when the entire time I'm giving her the shut the actual F *** up look so she could change the subject or stop talking to avoid all that. Laugh out loud. Story 24. Mine is just incapable of finding anything, and our 11-year-old daughter has picked it up identically. They get angry that people have moved or lost their stuff, but even my 4-year-old son manages to find it. Honestly, our lounge could be absolutely spotless. She's looking for her shoes. They're bang in the middle of the floor, and she's literally stepped over them 3 times. Asks me where her coat is because she can't find it. It's literally on the coat hook by the door. Infuriating. She's bought about 10 purses and 10 handbags over the years. Still doesn't keep her cards or important stuff in them. Loses her bank cards once a week, and I wish I was exaggerating. Story 25. She regularly forgets or neglects to fully close containers of food after using them, despite reminders. I always find out when a little of some of that food spills out onto me or the floor when I go to grab it. It's a mild annoyance, and I love her with all my heart, but goddamn it. Story 26. He is not capable of loading a dishwasher. Every single time I go to unload it after he loaded it, I am shocked at how bad of a job he did. He is so intelligent. I do not know why dishes are so hard for him. Story 27. I ran into a high-powered attorney who was completely unaware of himself. One time, he left the shower on in a hotel room and left for the day. The fire alarms finally went off in the mid-afternoon because of the steam. The room was sweating in every crevice. His assistant says he does this kind of thing often. She and his wife have to follow him around to put things away or turn off and close things. Story 28. My girlfriend is academically brilliant. She graduated with honors in biomedical engineering from one of the best engineering schools in the country and just got accepted to a top 30 medical school. However, she grew up in Florida, and therefore in her mind, If there is one single flake of snow anywhere outside, she believes it's too dangerous to drive, regardless of whether the roads have been plowed and salted. Story 29. My mom is the exact same way. She enjoys expert-level Sudoku books, constantly does puzzles with over 1,000 pieces, and is an avid reader. However, she has absolutely zero common sense or situational awareness. Story 30. My ex was convinced that you didn't need to empty your pockets when putting dirty clothes in the laundry, and it's somehow on the person doing it to check every article of clothing first before it hits water. Even when I explained this is just creating work and had also led to a lot of ruined laundry due to melted lipsticks and leaking pens, she didn't seem to care. I do it for my kids because they're still young and make a lot of silly mistakes, but doing that for a grown adult drove me nuts. I also never understood how she couldn't comprehend how large cars were and would routinely hit parked cars, mailboxes, light posts, and bash her door into other cars. Every time, wow, I didn't think I was that close to that, forgetting at least one, if not 3 or 4, important items when leaving the house. It got to the point that I had to make sure I had a schedule that would routinely allow me time each day to bring her things, such as phone, purse, laptop, medications, and paperwork. The other option was always leaving after her and doing a quick run around the house to find whatever she'd left so I could flag her down and give it to her. Not relationship deal breakers, but instead the stuff that makes you wonder how she managed to live this long. She's a smart person and has dealt with insanely detailed projects at work. Yet when we lived together, I felt like I had adopted an elderly dog with a learning disability. Story 31. There are different types of intelligence. Book smarts versus street smarts being the most common. Then there are more complex ones, such as intelligence where your brain can process and adapt to a situation in seconds without thinking about it. Everyone is hardwired differently depending on what their environment was growing up or their current reality. For example, former prisoners now in the real world often are super alert to their surroundings compared to the average person. Their safety was a priority back then, so it becomes part of their natural habits and traits to be that way. My ex was absolutely lacking in situational awareness or logical and efficient thinking, but was an absolute machine of intelligence in science and engineering and so on. Appreciate them as they are. We all have our unique strengths and weaknesses.